I'm Dr. Kristin Palmer, and like Weiwei said, I'm going to be talking about community of inquiry today in our presentation and some of the results we've had. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm happy to share the link to the presentation, and I'm going to be a little pesky and ask some polling questions, but I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. So I know most people are not on camera, but if you can be on camera and say hey or a thumbs up for questions or down, that would be great. So first I should say who I am. So I'm Dr. Kristin Palmer. I've been the director of online learning at the University of Virginia for the last 11 years. I left UVA in February and I started a new job with an international development organization to train and employ 100,000 cloud engineers in Africa. My focus for the last 7 years has been what I'm going to talk about today, bringing educational experiences using the community of inquiry framework to people in Africa. And I published 6 books with that. And I was lucky enough last year to win the UPSIA award for international online learning leadership. So this is me. Thank you. And then what is this program? I guess I should ask first, like, how many people, I mean, we were talking about how community of inquiry is kind of a theme. How familiar are people? Are they like super familiar, like, or yeah, kind of? There's surveys, yeah, sort of. Okay, good. Yay! So the folks at Athabasca University up in Canada host the Community of Inquiry framework website, and there's a survey you can use as an instrument for measuring your community of inquiry. I'll talk about it a little bit in here, but there are 3 presences, and it's designed for online learning, but it really makes the learning experience for every learner better, whether it's face-to-face or hybrid or online or any variation, asynchronous, synchronous, everything. It makes it a better experience. But I'm here because what we've done over the last 7 years, starting in 2016, was we've provided through the University of Virginia and a nonprofit called Distance Education for Africa, using MOOCs. I know that came up in Mark's talk last time about, quality and the wellness check, but using mostly business on MOOCs as the cognitive presence in community of inquiry. We'll talk about that. But we've given over 40,000 scholarships, reaching learners in every single country in Africa. We have published 6 books, and I realized today I said I was going to talk about program outcomes. So I quick put a few slides in here just so you can see program outcomes. And I don't know how, this is another kind of quick poll question. Has anybody ever heard of Net Promoter Score? Is this like, oh yeah, totally, I know what that is, or like, what the heck are you talking about, Kristin? No idea. Okay, so Net Promoter Score is it's a customer satisfaction metric that's used mostly in business. So like Amazon will have an NPS, Net Promoter Score, and the general concept is, how satisfied are you on a scale of 0 to 10 or 1 to 10. The people that are 9 to 10 are your promoters. They're the people that are going to be like, dude, this product's awesome. Totally get this product, order it from this site, whatever. It's fantastic. The people that are 7 and 8 are called passive. They're like, yeah, it was kind of okay, but it, whatever. They're probably not going to be your champions. And then your, 1 to 6 are the people that are actively, demoting your product. So if you're like, oh yeah, that was, Northwest eLearn conference, the people that are like 6 and below, those are the people that are like, yeah, they're not going to recommend anybody. And they're in fact going to say, oh, it was kind of, which it's not, it's an awesome conference. The talks have been fantastic. You want 9s and 10s. And the way you find your Net Promoter Score is you take the percentage of your 9s and 10s and you subtract the percentage of your 1s through 6s. And so the Net Promoter Score for this program is a 64.2 based on the people that answered the survey. So that's a super high Net Promoter Score. And a lot of times I did some research around Net Promoter Scores back in, about 2013, looking at completion rates in MOOCs versus net promoter scores of MOOCs to really understand, what does success look like? Mark, I'm totally interested about your supermarket chain experience and the net promoter score. I don't know if you want to share in chat how you used it for that, but you can see there's some other metrics here from the outputs of this program in Africa. Resoundingly had a big impact on your skill set, feeling like you're prepared. Did you have transition to a new field? Was it worthy of your investment? Overwhelmingly, people want to take more classes. And sometimes people ask me, what is my deal with Africa? Africa has over 1 billion people. And by the year 2030, 42% of the world's population under 25 is going to be in Africa. And so I'm kind of the eco mama, looking at, the United Nations sustainable development goals. If you're interested in that kind of foundation of really making the world a better place and influencing through education, that next generation, Africa is a great place. And it's because of the lack of infrastructure, there's a lot of opportunity to leapfrog technologies and use mobile, which I'm going to talk a lot about today. The other big thing, and I said community of inquiry, community, sense of belonging, that engagement, feeling like you are part of something bigger than yourself. This is really the goal for me of community of inquiry, because a lot of times there are great things. And Mark, I'm going to pick on you a little bit, like the wellness check, where it's like, or Quality Matters peer review, or OLC's QCTIP, or the Oscar metric, where it's helping to improve accessibility. It's making sure that your content's actually aligned with what your learning objectives are, and that there's continuity to what your assessments are. But I think the community of inquiry instrument, it really helps measure that engagement, as well as the teaching engagement, as well as, the learning content and cognitive. So let me talk to what it actually is. Community of inquiry, it's this Venn diagram where you have 3 overlapping circles. And a lot of the other measures focus on that cognitive presence, where what are your learning objectives? What are your learning activities? What are your assessments? How do they come back to the learning objectives? Are you teaching what, are your activities leading to what knowledge you want people to gain? And teaching presence, it's not necessarily a teacher. In our program, we use mentors. So we've got 100 mentors, but it's somebody that shows up and knows who you are. They know, okay, this person has a 4-year-old that might come in and interrupt the meeting, or that person just had, COVID and they're still under the weather and they're totally swamped with email. And that person, their mother is in the hospital because she broke her ankle, but somebody that kind of knows who you are. And it's that concept that we've talked about for decades of meeting the learner where they are, and really, becoming student-centric in how we teach. And so that teaching presence talks to that, and being there for the learner. And then social presence is that belonging that I was talking about. And I think pre-pandemic, the stereotypical belonging and that you're part of a greater community was sports teams, and looking at, okay, go Nittany Lions or UVA Cavaliers. It was that their sports tended to, bring people together around this community that you were part of. I bleed red because I went to Stanford, and I'm going to give them the axe for Berkeley because that's the community that I'm a part of. But we've now realized community and belonging and engagement is super important and critical, and it should be more than just your sports teams. And so we're starting to think about things like the autonomous robots that were in the class and the keynote speaker of like, how do you build that presence in your courses to create that engagement? So for this program in Africa, we use cognitive presence, we use MOOCs, and we use the University of Virginia MOOCs. We've now offered over 40 courses, and they are designed to be, that was another thing that had come up with, I think it was in the keynote, that you can download the course. You can download the course onto your mobile device on Coursera. So it's super mobile friendly and it's very data centric. But then we overlaid social presence, where my partner here with Distance Education for Africa is the guy in the gray suit, grayish blue suit with the red tie in the middle, Siddiqui Traore. And Siddiqui heads up Distance Education for Africa, and he spends about 3 months a year in Africa, and he'd go around and do these graduation celebrations that were these multi-generational celebrations of people coming together and talking about what they learned, how they're applying it to the new jobs, new roles, and kind of building that momentum for other people to see success and modeling success, and how it can be localized in that region, and kind of building up momentum and passion for these courses. And then we had teaching presence through, or we do have teaching presence through mentors. And so we have 100 mentors across Africa, and they're people that have taken the courses. They're not paid anything, but we host WhatsApp channels based on regions. And so they manage WhatsApp channels, and there's been all sorts of gamification actually in the channels. It's fun to watch, where, we had one person that was an accountant, and we had a financial accounting course. And so she finished the course in like a day and a half, because she was already an expert in financial accounting. But it became this like gamified, and they'll answer questions and help support people. Coursera does not have the best onboarding process if you're joining a private session. If you don't already have an account, people get kind of confused as to, they get a little lost on that process. And so the WhatsApp community has been a great support for answering just general questions and being that person that knows who you are, that's in your region, that can kind of help out. Oh, this is what I just talked about. We do have 100 pro bono mentors hosting these different discussions. We have used WhatsApp. We're starting a pilot actually this week, doing tech classes that are open educational resources. And we're going to be using Facebook instead, because there's one of the largest communities. Africa's leading ladies is a 405,000 person community on Facebook. And so we're trying to teach that community tech skills. So we're going to be transitioning for our mentors onto Facebook instead of WhatsApp for that pilot. So we'll see how it goes. But this has been that kind of mentorship teaching presence. And it's been fantastic. I talked a little bit about gamified already with, people competing with each other regionally for where they're at in the program and helping encourage people to finish. And if I didn't make it clear, mobile, everything's mobile. I think that's, definitely predominant in Africa. And we're looking at these remote regions where people, data is super expensive and hard to get to. And so being able to download data onto a mobile device. I've worked with the Sherry Blair Foundation, optimizing their content for audio content. Audio is the primary, like if you're looking at a quality stick and spending money on creating courses, audio is the number one thing to make sure you're capturing great audio for the courses. And it takes up less bandwidth. So people that can't, it goes to universal design and learning and that kind of +1 modality, making sure that audio is available. Coursera creates transcripts for everything, which is fantastic. But it helps for the people that are more remote and don't have as much access to be able to watch videos. Oh, you see, I get ahead of myself. I should look at my slides before I talk. So +1 and flexibility is super important. And if you don't know, does everybody knows Universal Design and Learning, UDL? Georgia Tech had a fantastic conference last week. Yakut Ghazi is now at Duke, but she was at Georgia Tech, and she had a fantastic, hosted a socially inclusive learning, and it was all based on UDL. I'm sure Georgia Tech will make that content available, but super fantastic. UDL is great stuff. Oh, wait, I did. Oh, now I feel like an idiot. So I put in all those outcome slides and I didn't realize I had one here. But one of the things I think around being flexible, which is what we learned from UDL, one of the concepts of UDL, is what does success look like? And I talked about this briefly at the beginning with the Net Promoter Score versus completions. And this was definitely the case with the Africa program of, thinking what does success look like and how do we gauge if this is important and we should keep doing this work. This is different for most people that are teaching 4-credit classes because you want people to finish and get their degrees. But figuring out what your definition of success looks like for programs is really critical. And it wasn't what we thought it was going to be for this program. We had a super high Net Promoter Score, but not necessarily a super high completion rate of people actually completing the courses. And what we did see is success by doing. And so we had all sorts of people creating new businesses, whether it was a chicken hutch or a rabbit clutch, or, this woman is just awesome. She's a virtual assistant, but we've had people creating insurance companies that are like digital first insurance companies in Africa. And so actually seeing people doing the work as success. And Anna, thank you for putting the slide link in there. As we all know, with online learning, life does happen, especially with andragogy and adult learners. And so figuring out how you can be flexible when, the most constrained resource for most working adults that have been participating in our program has been time. And again, this is where for us, social media has been fantastic, because getting into people's feeds for their WhatsApp feeds to get them re-engaged to the content has been a really powerful tool. But it has, if we look at people not completing the courses, the number one reason is people don't have enough time. The other big thing that we had was not enough bandwidth, and again, use downloadable content. And again, flexibility in content. So audio files versus full courses. Coursera is really amazing on being able to have lots of choices there. So it made it easier for us. Electricity is a really big issue in Africa. It's not consistent everywhere. And again, mobile. I think almost everybody's seen the solar chargers for mobile. So it can be completely off grid and you can still get charged to your device and do your educational content all offline, all solar powered. Fantastic choice if you're trying to meet rural people where they're at. The other thing I recommend is letting people know. So we've published 6 books on best practices, and our courses have been business courses mostly to date. And so one of the things we realized is there's a dearth of Africa-centric business case studies. And so we ended up creating a 5 handbook series of business case studies written by participants in the program. And I see, Mark, what type of courses are participants taking in the DAfrica program? Prior to joining Idaho State, designed a training program for a nonprofit organization to teach people in low-income urban areas job skills for entry-level banking careers throughout the US. It was the most amazing project of my career so far, and I loved it. Yay! I love amazing careers. So we're looking mostly at design thinking, project management, foundations of business strategy. There's an ethical voice to values. Right now, they're doing a pricing and competitive market strategy specialization. So it's a 4-course specialization, but most of the courses and I have a slide thanking the University of Virginia, but it's been University of Virginia's courses, and their business school is by far their most, online, digitally present school, and, trying to get their content out to reach more people. So it's been business courses, but like I said, we're starting a pilot at the end of this week on tech courses using OER. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think the other thing with working globally is, English proficiency, and then some of the softer skills that employers want to see around communication or teamwork or project management, time management, critical thinking. And so building out a curriculum that addresses all of those. But for me, one of the big things was just African content for Africans by Africans, because there's a lot of kind of colonial, it is Columbus Day, Indigenous Day, Canadian Thanksgiving. There's a lot of, this is how we in Virginia think about business. And in Africa, maybe it's not the exact same framework. So we created these books, and they're beautiful. And they use these concepts that every business student needs to learn, like Porter's 5 forces analysis, SWOT analysis. Most of us know that one. There's the 4A model here. So just looking at really celebrating success. And when your students are creating content that's applied, real life, has value, make sure you're getting that out there. And so for us, it was doing it through publishing books. So you can see some of the content from that. And as I said at the beginning, one of the big things for social presence for us was having these, I'd love it if they were OER. AJ sent a note about, is the content OER? We had talked about having like 10 business case studies be OER, because the books, the idea is to try to make the program sustainable, which is why we're now doing a tech skills versus business skills. But I'm happy to share anything from the books to anyone, but right now they are on Amazon, and they're not strictly OER, but I'm happy to share examples. But back to the slide, celebrating multi-generational learning communities. That really has been magical for us in getting that kind of community building and momentum regionally. And there have been these stories of people coming, by bus from Burundi for 12 hours to be able to participate. It's been a really high value, but it's in person and synchronous activity. And then I've got some surprises of stuff that didn't work, that like from an instructional design perspective are like, of course this is going to work. This is totally going to make it a better class. We did some synchronous Zoom sessions where we even had faculty participate in synchronous Zoom sessions. Like, of course that would be better. Nope, wasn't better. Lots of issues around connection and just time issues. Was not worth what we invested in trying to make that happen. The other thing we tried that should have, of course, worked and totally didn't work were weekly customized messages, email of like, hey, this is what we covered this week. Here's summarizing these lessons. Here's foreshadowing on what this next week's going to be covering. Think about how this relates to what you're doing and reflect what's one big takeaway for you. Posted to the discussion forum. Didn't work. Totally should work from an instructional design perspective. Did not work with this audience, whether it's because they were in Africa or remote or had different challenges, not sure, but those things didn't work with this audience. And here's that slide I was talking about earlier. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. University of Virginia has been incredibly generous with this program and very proud of the impact that we've been able to do. Coursera has been a fantastic educational partner with hosting the content, and Distance Education for Africa has been that mentorship and social presence component that really has helped it be successful. And thank you guys for letting me talk and talk and talk and talk. If you want to talk more, I've got my contact information here. And AJ, you came on camera for a minute. Did you want to talk about OER or how I can make our content more accessible or anything?
No, I just that was just the first question that I had when I saw your stuff. I was like, "Whoa, this is really cool." I was just wondering if you had considered putting it in OER to even, maximize the shareability of it is all.
Yeah, 100%. Our struggle has been sustainability. So we also used a course from the University of London on doing startups without VC funding. A lot of the content's been around entrepreneurship and kind of creating your own business. But it's like every mentor has been pro bono. It'd be really nice to give stipends to people for just doing awesome work and building community. And we just haven't figured out how to do it. So we're looking at now doing a tech skill pilot where we place people on jobs to try to get job placement, as trying to figure out how to make a sustainable model. So I love the idea of OER, but for this particular project, part of the idea was trying to make it sustainable by selling books that then help pay people that are working on it. And I finally saw Dr. Strange in the Multiverse this weekend. We rented it. So
Nice.
I'm catching up slowly. And I realized that I'm not sure if we put in the question or if it was Anna, but talking about teaching presence, you mentioned you have 100 mentors. I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about how you onboard the mentors and continue to engage and communicate with the mentors throughout the course to make sure everyone's on the same page and feeling they're part of a community, have enough resources, and are being supported. This may help us think about how we do professional development with faculty and TAs and support them at our schools. So, and there's none, there's nothing. It's really just building personal relationships with people, but there's no support. There's no stipend. There's no, hey, this is the curriculum, what we're going to do. Please talk about these learning points. Let's host. We've talked about all sorts of regional ideas. Like we wanted to do sort of a Shark Tank incubator at our different graduation ceremonies, where like, people could pitch their ideas and somebody wins $200 that if they're voted up as the best idea. But right now it's all completely unregulated, just really personal relationships and people that are paying it forward because they got value from the program. So not necessarily what I would design, but it's kind of the scrappy startup model. Like if you follow, I think it's Dave Evans and Bill Burnett, and they're designing your life, and kind of that fail fast and fail early and try lots of different things. And it's okay to start with nothing and just try something. I feel like that the mentors are still very much in that there's not resources, but it's had a huge impact. Like it's very clearly made the program much more successful. But it's like, talk about done on a shoestring. It's like, it's a slip-on shoe. There's not even a shoestring.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like there is, that's what it makes me think, is that the program is transformative for those who go through it, and they just want, they want to share that experience. And so they're self-selected, I'm assuming, and they're just folks that have decided it's worth bringing their community up.
Yeah. And I think
different culture too.
Yeah. And there's all sorts of stereotypes around gender too. And I haven't found data on this. So if anybody has data on this, I'd love it if you'd share. sources, but I think anecdotally, we've had a lot of our women community members really focus on sharing with their community and building community programs. Not that all of our mentors are women, they definitely are not, but I feel like there's something to that anecdotal kind of keeping it in the family community, paying it back in the community, that focus. So we've been super lucky, and it's an amazing community. Like it's really, to Mark's comments earlier with his working with urban poor on financial literacy and skills for intro banking jobs, it just feels awesome. Like it's working with people to help transform their lives, and then they go do cool things. So it's really fantastic.
It made me think about, I mean, actually, when I saw the series of books, I thought, ooh, I should share that with our business school, just because the case studies would be interesting, new perspectives in global and.
Well, and it's fascinating. So I was the editor for all of those, and so there's definitely some finessing of what people wrote and how people wrote, and English language proficiency issues, but it was fascinating. Like I didn't realize Kentucky Fried Chicken is like the #1 fast food restaurant in Africa. It's not McDonald's, which is what I assume the US one is. And so they're like things that you're like, really, I never thought of that. And a lot of microfinance and like looking at productization in just very different perspectives of like how to build a business. Like Safaricom is one of the internet providers, but like how they've differentiated their business and created side markets for new revenue streams. I mean, I think as a higher education institution, it's really fascinating. It's like, oh, wow. We think about certificates and degrees, but like just how they frame, how their openness to new products and new revenue streams. So there are local, regional, continental and international business cases there. So, and Nadia, I'm glad you're here from Coursera. I am such a fan. Since you guys were in Mountain View on El Camino, my whole family is in the Bay Area. And so I was at your first office there, and then the new office in Mountain View. And Jenny Wolichek is like the best person ever. She's been at Coursera now, I think, for 9 years, and UVA has had a great relationship with Coursera. They've been super supportive, and the partnership managers have been just wonderful people. So, and I said I was gonna have 10 minutes, and I have like 20 minutes if people have questions. I talk too fast.
Kristin, earlier you mentioned there are a couple of things that did not work.
Yeah.
Would you mind elaborating a little bit more on why they did not work, what you saw, and for people who did participate, what they got out of it and what their feedback was?
Well, and I think the other component to that is the stuff that worked that shouldn't work, right? Like the mentors that have absolutely no onboarding or structure to what they're doing, and that works. But I think most people that, so if I should put this link in the chat, UVA we did a great project having Small Changes, Big Impact is the name of the project. And it's from the Center for Teaching Excellence website, but it's all these really short faculty videos. They're 2 or 3 minutes long on things that had surprisingly huge effects for people's classes during the pandemic, that they're keeping that practice. And, one of them was that, 3-point summary. Hey, priming the pump. This is what we're going to learn this week, so that people were kind of more cognitively present and aware as they're going through their weekly activities, that like, this is how I'm going to apply this, or this is what the intention is for me to be learning. I think that's a really basic standard best practice with instructional design, of kind of setting expectations, And that's what we do with learning objectives, right? We're setting expectations. This is what we're going to learn about. This is how we're going to measure it. This is what the syllabus is about. Like, this is how you're going to be graded, and like what concepts you need to be able to apply and how you're going to demonstrate that learning. And it was like, we didn't have a lot of, I think part of me thinks there's a generational thing. I have 3 sons that are all teenagers. One's a sophomore in college, one's a senior in high school, and then I have another one that's not on tech yet. But they never read email, like, ever. And all of those course messages were email messages. And I think it's just like, I think it's the spam world of like, I don't know if it was a filter with a Coursera filter of like, oh, it's going into junk because it came from a Coursera account, or it's just email and it's noise not happening at the right time or within the right context, because they're not full-time students. They're not kind of setting their schedule based on, I'm taking classes all week. They're setting their schedule based on, I'm working and balancing my life and my family. And this is kind of what might I apply for my next career. And so maybe there was a timeliness to it where it wasn't like every Monday morning, I want to hear about this, because that's just not the mindset. Clearly the practice works with students in 4-credit classes, and that, like, it's a standard best practice with instructional design. One of those things nobody's going to argue with you about, but for whatever reason, and I don't know the root cause, but it wasn't effective with this population. And for anyone doing synchronous Zoom sessions, like, we pulled teeth to get faculty to participate in this. And it was partially because they were excited that this program existed, and that they were reaching learners that were way more diverse learners than the people that were showing up in our classrooms, no matter what our marketing efforts were. And so it's like, it took a lot of effort for us to get faculty to come in and spend time doing this. And especially like design thinking and project management, like, they're super hot skills that it's very handy to have those skills of understanding how to look at things and how to frame things and how to get things done. And boy, just underwhelming the value that added. So did no one respond to the prompts? Did they not read them? So Delana asked about, the weekly emails and like what came from the weekly emails. And this is the world of discussion boards on Coursera. Like, there was some conversation on that, but it didn't have, it didn't kind of get everybody in the same place at the same time thinking about the same prompt. It was more of in the spam filter, I think.
So the rest of the content, the course materials, that was all kind of asynchronous, right? So that was, and I think you hit it. You already answered before, maybe you already answered that with it just being kind of that disconnect of email, and like the rest of their content was done on their own time. Their social content, or their connecting with their mentor, was on the WhatsApp. So that was in their social sphere, right?
Yeah.
And then connecting with each other as students and belonging to that community was kind of done, culminating at the end, right?
And we've had those for years now, right? So there's like this 3-month window that Siddiqui goes over, and he'll do, usually it's 8 or 9 different celebrations. And he's been doing that since the beginning. But I have an anecdote that I wonder if anybody can empathize with on this call. One of the people that I just loved working with at UVA, she had an inbox, or I'm sure she still does have an inbox, that has like 1,200 emails or some ludicrous amount. Like, there's no way you're going to read all that. And she accidentally deleted everything once. And so like all of her emails went away. And she was like, it was great. Has anybody ever had that where it's like, oh, I accidentally deleted that, or like their whole email gets deleted and it's like, if it's important, they'll just email me back. Has anybody had that? No?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
I
totally.
yeah, you have AJ? Yeah. And yeah, I really think I think email's kind of had its day. I don't know what the next thing is going to be. If it is social media or texting or, but I think there's kind of, you know, would any of us really mind if email went away? It's like a headache, right? It's this huge to-do list and
Well, we just get so much, we do get so much spam. So I don't even click on those. I have a lot in my inbox and
okay. You
I
can
try
still
to
be
hide
fun.
that when I share
Yeah.
my screen,
Yeah.
but I don't look at the junk and I don't process the junk either. And so it's like I just pick and look through for the ones that I need.
Yeah.
I did go through and delete all my iCloud emails at one point, and that it felt like it felt painstaking, but it also felt really good. But then just as fast, it's so
Yeah. It's back.
back.
Like the
And,
scourge of the early 21st century.
but I think that we've got to have, and I think one of the, we've got to have systems that connect that on their mobile devices.
So there was a vendor probably 6 or 7 years ago that was doing like just short polling questions to mobile devices. Does anybody know? I can't remember what the vendor was, but it was that. I mean, I think that's,
There's a lot of them, right?
yeah, but
Thinking about
that I think
Socrative.
it wasn't, that doesn't sound right, but that idea of, the emails, it's a bit like the 20-page syllabus, right? Like who actually reads the 20-page syllabus? This is a super valuable document, but that you've got to wonder what the click-through rate is of people actually doing that, even when it's like your first quiz is 100% based on the syllabus and we all sorts of good ideas to try to get people to actually open that and look at it. But yeah, emails, yeah, higher ed, it's all texting. Yeah. Patty's heard of that situation. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we as staff use email, but students don't use email. And I feel good about my email that I use with my staff but then it's the same thing. The faculty, you've got to show them the value of why to read your piece
Oh, I should
that you
put,
send them.
I'm gonna put in that small changes, big impact link because that really is a great site if anybody's looking for little
Yeah,
pieces
that's great.
of advice. So I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Thanks.
Kristin, to kind of follow up on that, I was curious, in Africa is WhatsApp kind of the predominant platform for communique? I was just curious why kind of entrenching yourself into like Facebook, and because WhatsApp's owned by Facebook and that ecosystem.
Yeah, it's an excellent question. And I think part of it is, well, it's going to get political really fast here, but so China is definitely investing in education just in Africa generally. So WeChat is very popular and lots of devices that are Chinese devices. But it goes back to the sustainability thing. If you want to try to get like USAID to try to do a grant proposal or something, you better not be on a Chinese device or hosted platform. We've used platforms based on what people have asked for. So WhatsApp was definitely from the group at DAfrica, and that group started in Kenya. There are some other platforms that are popular there too, but that's the platform that most of the communities are on. And then right now we're trying to do a partnership with this Africa's Leading Ladies Facebook group. So our pilot is going to be in a Facebook group because they're all members of a Facebook group. If that makes
Cool,
sense.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
how large are the WhatsApp communities? They're not huge. So there are certain countries that have a lot. So Botswana, Uganda, Kenya, we have a lot of learners in there, and I can get data for you if you want to see that data. I don't have it in this presentation, but those communities are definitely larger. We do have turnover in our mentors too, of people like being super active or not very active right now. But I would say the majority of the communities have 10 to 15 people in them, where you kind of know each other by name, and like who frequently posts versus people that don't frequently post. And then Siddiqui is kind of a bit of the godfather of the WhatsApp groups, where he can connect people across WhatsApp groups or share things of like, hey, Uganda was where the woman who was the accountant finished the financial accounting class really. And so then it trickled down to different WhatsApp groups from one person saying, hey, did you see this? So